Hello, hello, hello. It's Friday, baby. My name is Lady T, and I'm your host for today. I'm here with co-host Mr. Know-It-All. How are you, Mr. Know-It-All?
Hey, Lady T, it is so good to talk to you today. And, I'm really excited. I had alluded to this that we may have a guest. And lo and behold, we have a guest today.
Yay, we have a special guest today.
Special guest, our first guest of our podcast. And what we have is an expert in the PR space. And as everyone knows, things are changing greatly in that space in public relations. So I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Wayne Anderson, and he's going to speak about public relations and his firm. Welcome to It's Friday, Baby, Wayne, and tell us all about you and your company.
Welcome, Wayne.
Thanks, guys. Well, thanks for having me. I think it's only fair to share, because I think it would be disingenuous to talk a little bit about our relationship.
Yeah.
And how we met, going back to, I want to say 2015 in
13,
Philadelphia.
2013,
Wow.
actually.
Yeah, 2013, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where you see I'm trying to shave off some time. If I can take 2 years from here and there, I will, obviously, as you can see. Look, man, when we were working together at Super Media, that then became Dex Media, which was the big publishing giant that then transitioned because of a lot of what we'll end up talking about today, which is the digital marketing space. And so, that really was a big opportunity for me to sort of get my feet on the ground and, the start of kind of understanding digital marketing in general. And then eventually what I ended up doing now, which was starting a marketing public relations firm.
Wow, that's interesting.
Hats off and congratulations. What was really interesting about that time, and you'll attest to this, is that there's been so many changes, and changes happen very quickly in that space, right? So, speaking to small and mid-sized businesses, and as I remember, you were in a pretty aggressive market. I was in the New Jersey Northeast market, which is pretty aggressive, and our buddy, we can mention his name, Ramsey, was in the New York market, but you were in Philly, which is a very aggressive market. So, you talk about getting your feet wet and learning on the go and getting, just like incredible experience. Would you agree?
Yeah, by all means. And I guess, being a New Yorker, I think it's fair for us to be able to, or at least for me to be able to compare the two different markets. Philadelphia was raw in the sense that, these people were just very direct. They wanted results right away, and there was a little bit of impatience. It was certainly an interesting approach that I had to take in terms of, how we sort of positioned ourselves in the marketplace. One of which being a consultant and really sharpening our listening skills, and then coming up with solutions that sort of gapped those those distances. So by all means, I agree with you. It was definitely a different marketplace, but it has helped and aided me because, again, you get a sense of the variety of caliber of people that you'll end up working with. So it was a great opportunity.
Yeah. So now you're heading Manderson PR, and you're out of Miami. Is that correct?
That's right. Although it didn't start in Miami, I leave Philadelphia, moved back to New York after leaving Dex Media.
Yeah.
And I literally started a marketing PR company out of my one-bedroom apartment in Midtown Manhattan.
Nice.
Yeah, and so that's where the genesis and the beginning of everything sort of started with my company.
Oh, I love that. So tell us a little bit about what are the main functions of a PR company? What do you guys do for those of us who don't really know what that space is?
Yeah. So, it's a broad spectrum, because when you look at marketing and these things, by the way, needs, to be looked at as separate entities. Marketing is a separate entity than it is from public relations.
Ah,
You can technically do one without having to do the other. And in my case, obviously, I've kind of merged the two so I can sort of create a full service scalability for all of my clients. So, when you talk about marketing, it's the action or the verb that one would take uh, during a process. And prior to that process is, what we would then talk about is branding and
Mhm.
creating identity for a company. And that's usually the first start of an opportunity. Marketing, again, is more actionable. You can start talking about social media, which is a marketing component onto itself. You can talk about, earned media, paid advertising. There's just a different approach that you can take when you start talking about marketing because it has different components and feels that you can kind of execute for that client depending on what their needs are and who they are.
perfect. And I understand branding. You said branding. That's really key, as I understand it. The branding is one of the most important aspects.
Now, do you find that a lot of your clients who either come to you or who you source out kind of mix and match all of them and not have a great understanding of what they actually do and why they need all of them? Do you find that to be an education point that you kind of go through with majority of clients, or do they come pretty savvy? They come with a lot of knowledge on their own.
Yeah, no, that's a great question because it's certainly an issue that we deal with constantly. The truth is, typically small, medium-sized businesses, there's this sort of educational process that is shared given the opportunity. Obviously, your first, approach with these companies is to listen and to figure out and understand what their issues and what their needs are. Once
Mhm.
you've done that, you then kind of come back with a proposal in mind. And that proposal, typically, as you've just suggested, has all the different components of approach. So typically, if we have the client that has the time and the funding for an opportunity, we'll take them through that journey process where we'll talk about and identify who they are, what is their internal ethos, as a company, what are, their offerings, why are they different than a competitor, identifying specifics that sort of uniquely brand these companies, these individuals. So this way, once that's identified, we can then take that opportunity and then implement the marketing strategy that we would plug into that opportunity. And then at the very end would be PR, where PR, as I said earlier, is a separate component. This is almost coinciding with marketing, but just a different sort of approach. This is where we typically are writing press releases, for example,
Mhm.
and we're trying to either locally, regionally, or nationally, and depending on the brand, sometimes globally, um, reaching out to media networks, whether that's print, radio, TV, to get them to feature these particular brands that we're representing.
Yeah, now I got to tell you, now, Wayne, I'm not really trying to soup you up, but I have to be honest with you. If you're sitting across the table, I would hire you in a minute because number one, the way you explain, these attributes and the calmness that you have in your voice, me as a client, I would feel like, yeah, this is the kind of person who I want on my team because I don't have an internal marketing team. So I need to get somebody on the outside. It's just like, if you have an issue, you need a really great attorney, you interview your attorney, you talk to your accountant. You want to feel really great about that person that's going to be representing your brand or where you're trying to portray yourself as. So hats off to you, Wayne. And I know that's not just Dex Media training. That's Wayne Anderson training right there. So hats off to you. You sound so good, man. I'm proud,
No, I
So,
appreciate that. And look, I think that's all, relevant, right? I mean, people
yeah.
will purchase and buy from and do business with people that they like. And so often, you hear that situation, but it holds true, sometimes, when you win an account, you have to understand that, 80% of what you do will be factual, right? That will be hard data and critical information that needs to be sort of serviced. The other 20% is emotion.
Yeah.
It's people feeling good about whom it is that they're working with, and that becomes something of a closing point, typically in that situation. But it's extremely relevant.
Now, something that I see that, and I'm sure you see this as well regarding like social media, Instagram, TikTok. You have so many subject matter experts that come and they're selling a wide range of things, financial information, how to get your song. Like you see this a lot in the music business, right? How to make sure you have 10 million streams for $1,000, crazy stuff like that. All things that really speak to the market of growing a business. And you see people come on, even like get rich quick schemes. You see everyone speaking about how to market yourself, how to market your product. What do you feel about that in regards to just on social media when you see a lot of different pitches for a wide range of products?
So I think again, when we talk about branding, why that's so critical, you need to understand who you are and what your needs are. And
Hmm.
once you understand and you've identified that, that's when you start looking at the understanding behind how do I go about marketing myself? What are going to be, the critical need factors for, those things that will fit for my particular company. Um, I think that's what's kind of challenging about the situation if you're on the other end, if you're the customer, because as you've just noted, you see it's kind of like the wild west. You see so
Yeah.
much information. You're so burdened with information that it's difficult and challenging to know which way to turn, what's the best resource and opportunity for me, my company, and my brand. And I think again, that's why it's important that you hopefully will find someone in the marketplace that can identify those specifics, because you're also teaching, you're creating a knowledgeable client when you're having these discussions, because it's equal, right? It's equally important for me to understand who you are and know your business so I can go out and market it in the manner in which I need to. But it's also the same on the opposite end of that spectrum. You need to understand what it is that we're doing, and communication in that situation becomes a high priority.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. So give me, if you can speak a little bit about some of the motivating factors. Like you said, you started this business in New York in your apartment, and you worked for some big companies. What gave you the courage to go out on your own and put your own shingle out there, and the confidence that you would be successful? And then how did you get down to Miami? If you could, I'm giving you like three different questions, but I'm curious about that because those are big moves
Yeah,
as
so
far
I'll
as
try to follow each of those. The truth is, media shapes ideas that shape the world.
like
Um,
that. Yeah.
and I've always, taken a strong interest to media. Um, when I think about, being younger and being a child, my dad was this amazing storyteller. And, obviously, till this day, the things that he shared, and the way he shared them and how he told them has always, subjectively left a bias, on my brain.
Yeah.
You that, I wanted to figure out how could I do that and at the same time make a living doing that. And media was that easy answer.
Yeah.
situation. You asked how and when I started. I'm going back 5 years when I started my business. And then you also asked, how did I get down to Miami from New York? Um, so I'm 2 years in. And the first year when I started Manderson PR, I'll be honest with you, I didn't have one client. It took
Mm,
one full year before I landed my first client.
wow.
And it was challenging. It was a tough emotional ride. Certainly I had saved and prepared myself to start this business, but New York's a tough market.
Yeah.
And what you need to understand when you're getting into the PR marketing space is that it's dominated by, specific large companies, and they typically look nothing like us.
Yeah.
Right.
When
Yeah.
you're talking about that situation, again, no differently than probably what we would do as people of color, we would hire people that look like us.
Mhm.
So, knocking on doors and trying to gain opportunities became very, very challenging. I knew that I had to make a move and go to a less competitive market. Um, Now, the one thing that I did sort of forget to some extent was how hard I had been working, the seeds that I was planting and the watering of those seeds and all of the caretaking that was going on, and the hard work. It's true, as I said, it took a year, but my first client was Dr. J, Julius Irving.
Right, right. Yes, yes.
Wow.
And
A great
so
client to start with, man.
so so if you're gonna have a first great client, why not Dr. J?
Yeah,
Why not?
absolutely.
Right, right. So, I get that opportunity and I then move to Miami, and things are completely different here, and as much as, Miami is being considered a big city, it's a big small city.
Yeah.
Mm.
Most people are aware it's a very heavy, Latino, dense, community. And what was and has been nice is, when you knock on the doors now, these people are opening the door because the truth is they're just like you. They're coming from South America and other countries, uh,
Mhm.
and they're new here. And
Yeah.
so, they know what it's like to be on the other side of that fence. And at the end of the day, if you're good at what you do, that's the only thing that matters.
That's
Nice.
true.
Beautiful.
We need more people like you in this space. We really do, because it's important.
I had the pleasure today, actually, and it was a call that I had with Barake Sellers. He's a young guy, not that young, like in his 40s, right? But he was speaking very similar to just about how what a lot of professionals need to do, specifically in our community, is the more they see people, PR execs, IT execs, people who are in music licensing or different areas of entertainment or just in IT in general. He said the more people that actually kind of speak about what they do and communicate about what they do and show their face, it encompasses people to have courage, especially younger people, to go into these areas and to learn about what it means to be successful in that. And as we do that, we kind of build a bigger community, because if no one sees, a Black PR exec, they can't dream to be one. So, you have a larger touch, and I'm sure you're aware of that. You have a larger, touch on the society than what you may even be thinking at the moment. So, I appreciate you bringing out that point. So, if you can elaborate a little bit on some of the challenges. That I remember we spoke about this a little while ago. That was a really interesting story, and that one particular, I would call it a lead or a client, led to another really great opportunity. You think you can elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think, again, as you've alluded to, having a very famous client like Julius Irving is going to certainly open doors. And I was, if I'm being honest, completely of the understanding of that. And so I wanted to take advantage of that. And what was nice about, their team and Dr. J Enterprises and, his nephew, Barry Bookard, who I ended up working with, who was the chief operating officer for his company, and as well his nephew, just being in that space, being in that atmosphere, brought me in rooms that I typically wouldn't have had access to. And that was
Right.
incredibly important. And they were completely supportive of that situation. Just as a small example, Julius has a golf charity fundraiser that he does annually. And although he hasn't done it in the last couple of years, primarily because of COVID,
Yeah.
it's something that he was doing on a regular basis prior to that. When I attended my first one, I don't care, name anyone, that is relevant in the sports space, and they were there.
Wow.
You're standing next to Marcus Allen and Shaquille O'Neal and
Yeah.
Charles Barkley and Allen Iverson.
Royalty.
It it was really difficult for me because, I think like anyone that would be in that situation, you kind of looked around and, you're sort of challenged with imposter syndrome, You're just, you're just like, why am I here? What you really have to say, I'm a child of God, and, I say to myself, because he chose me to be here,
Right. Yeah.
and sort of fill
Love
the
it.
shoes, right? And embrace the moment, embrace the opportunity. As challenging as that was, I did. Um, so, maybe you can help me, Will, with the particular opportunity that you're alluding to, because there's a couple of them, and I don't want to
Well,
say,
you shared with me, and it was really interesting because at the time we spoke, the movie came out, Miami, The Night in Miami. You remember
yeah,
this?
yeah,
And you had an interesting story about the hotel, and something you were going to work on at specific time.
got
It
it.
sounded really exciting. Does
Yeah.
does that ring a bell?
Yeah, no, absolutely it does.
Okay.
So, I come to Miami, and although they're no longer a client now, for about 2.5 years, there is a place called the Hampton House, which
Right.
at the time during the Jim Crow segregation era was a Green Book listed motel. And for any of your listeners uh, who are not familiar with what a Green Book community or space is, it was literally a book during Jim Crow segregation that had a listing state by state of all the places that if you were traveling as an African American, you knew that you could go and you were safe.
Right.
So, think
And then they
about,
made that movie as well,
right,
maybe around the
right.
same time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the movie that you're referring to is called One Night in Miami, which
Right.
was actually directed by Regina King. It was her directorial debut. And, Miami being no different than most of these other locations, you know, the hotel takes on a very special and unique significance because, oddly enough, it was actually owned and operated by a white Jewish couple who, fell into and grew into and fostered the understanding of inclusiveness. They specifically opened up this motel for the African American traveler. How it becomes really popular and famous is through a series of different actions, but one the most is that you have to think about Miami as an entertainment space, no differently than you would think about, for example, Las Vegas.
Right.
It was an entertainment capital, so people were coming here to Miami Beach. Obviously, if you were white, you were staying at the Fontainebleau and other famous places like that. At these different location sites, you had Black performers, from Sammy Davis Jr., Flip Wilson, Nat King Cole, you name it at that particular time. If you were of relevance, you were performing and playing at these institutions.
Yeah.
Mine during Jim Crow, though, however, you couldn't stay there. So what was happening was that they would cross the bridge and they would go into the different locations where these Green Book listed motels were, typically in Black communities. And the Hampton House was one of such communities. What was really nice, and why the Hampton House was also highly selected by these artists, was that it had a swimming pool and it had air conditioning. And you may laugh at that, but if you're looking at the late 50s, early 60s, those commodities were something that were really important for them,
Yeah.
because they wanted to feel a certain way staying at a place that was also sort of top of the line and offering those services and features.
Right.
But more to the point, as they were coming back to these locations, Aretha Franklin and Sarah Vaughan and all of these different people that were staying at the Hampton House, they started to jam and perform. And so over
Wow.
time, that built a following to the point where they actually started booking the Hampton House as their primary feature. So, the Hampton House takes on that relevance because of that. And because of music, as you can think about anything else that sort of has a trend, when you have music, you start attracting different disciplines. You start, getting athletes, that start staying there. So Muhammad Ali and all the other famous athletes, Jim Brown, they all stayed at the Hampton House because of the music. Then they started to attract people like Dr. Martin Luther King, and then Malcolm X, and then different people from, political spaces and social activism. Obviously, the spaces that these gentlemen that I just mentioned came from. So, it becomes an entity unto itself, mainly because of that driving force, that entity, which was music, that was compelling for these people to come and stay
Yeah.
there.
Wow. I remember seeing the movie as well, and that really brought my attention to the Green Book, because I'd never heard of it before, unfortunately. And it was really very interesting.
So, one of the things that and we're kind of running out of time, but what I've wanted to ask you is that what trends do you see happening now, and how are you adjusting some of the newer trends that are before you, and what do you see? Where do you see the space growing, and how are you going to attack it?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, technology and AI are, impactful contributions to what's going on. Think about even what you're doing, in
Yeah.
terms of podcasts, right? That's a huge medium. It's something that I'm talking to my clients about. It's content creation, right? And
Yeah.
you talk about, you know, podcasts, you also have to talk about short form video, which again, from a social media standpoint, whether, you're creating content video wise on, Instagram or Facebook, these are all drivers that are really, really popular. Um, there's another sort of disruptive situation that's now taking shape. And truthfully, it's got Google on the scare a little bit, and it's
Yeah.
AI, Chat GPT, right?
It's have you tried it?
I have not yet.
Oh my God, Wayne.
Yeah.
Oh
It
man.
is the new thing.
Well,
It is
think about how
crazy.
think about how disruptive it is, though, because you've got
Totally.
Very.
a
Oh
platform that now universities and colleges having to take note to, because these kids are literally using that to finalize and finish their exams. I mean, think about that.
Exams and test takers.
It's amazing. I did a chat GPT search, right, under tritone substitution, which is a musical term that John Coltrane theory that he basically invented, and it spat back to me the most clearest and most understandable text in regards to someone explain. And I've studied with some of the greatest musicians in the East Coast, and they
Right.
couldn't explain it the way it explained it to me. Amazing.
Yeah.
Scary though.
Yeah.
Disruptive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's phenomenal. My niece works for Google. I have a very good friend, which happens to be her boss, Melanie Parker, who is the chief diversity officer, global diversity officer. and they're all talking about it. It's something that
Yeah.
they're having meetings around. So, when you talk about what's trending in the space, that's certainly one of them that's up for discussion. But, look, at the end of the day, the one thing that, really sort of is the driving mechanism behind a lot of what we do is, writing still and always will be in demand.
Yeah.
I don't care what you do. If you need collateral, marketing material, someone's going to have to be able to put that together for you and articulate that in a way that's going to help push forward your business, whether you're in the service industry or not, or selling a product. It's something that's always going to be in demand.
Right. Well, listen, Wayne, I'm running out of time. I could talk to you forever, right? And we would love to have you back because there's a lot of questions and things I never got to. But the nature of it is that we would really just want to, have a conversation with you and find out about you. So I want to ask you two things. Number one, if you can give one, just I don't want to say one word, but one phrase that you would say would be helpful for someone that wants to start a business like yours or any type of business, what would that be?
Honestly, it's to get in touch with someone like myself.
That's
Get on
right.
LinkedIn.
I like it. Yeah.
I totally, I
Right? I mean,
absolutely agree.
So listen,
so,
Wayne, I love that. And is, you know what? You gave great advice.
Wow, that was a lot of information. So informative. And we'd like to thank again our special guest, Wayne Anderson of Manderson Public Relations. He's the executive director there, and we're so excited that he came today.
Yeah, a lot of information, really informative, really educational. If you're looking to start a business or if you have an existing business, that is what you need. That type of information to help you grow.
Absolutely, and we hope to have him back again soon. If you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, always feel free to email us at info@itsfridaybaybay.com. That's info@itsfridaybaybay.com. And the Baybay is Baybay.
Well, listen, you know what I think is really exciting? Because I think we have some really great music that we can actually kind of tie in to this particular episode.
We do, and it's from our Rubyboo Records and Entertainment label.
You know I love that label.
You say that every week.
I say that every week.
We have a remake of the classic song from Miss Mavis Staples and the Staple Singers entitled I'll Take You There.
Perfect, because you know what? If you have a business and you want to get further, you need someone to help you take it there, right? So this sounds great. I'm excited.
Let me lead the way.
Amen.
So I'm excited that we had this time today. I'm glad, and until next week, Mr. Know-It-All.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a great time talking to Wayne and talking to you, Lady T.
And why?
Because it's Friday, baby.
Friday, baby.
Thank you so much, Wayne.
I appreciate you both. Thank you for your time. And this was wonderful.
Right.
All right, thank you, Wayne. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, opinions of any agency and or platform. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. It's Friday, Baybay. Name and all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use is not an endorsement or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service.